Welcome, dear viewers, to a realm where the ordinary twists into the extraordinary, where each story weaves a tapestry of mystery and the supernatural. Tonight, we embark on a journey through three chilling tales that blur the lines between reality and the unknown. From the harrowing ordeal of an inexplicable pregnancy in The Unborn, to the mysterious life of Izumi in The Enigma of Izumi, and the haunting legacy of the Veil of Blackwood Hall, each story invites you into a world of hidden truths and unspoken fears. Sit back, if you dare, and immerse yourself in these narratives that remind us of the mysteries that lurk just beneath the surface of our understanding. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
In the quaint, mist-laden town of Blackwood, nestled between whispering forests and brooding hills, there stood an ancient manor, Blackwood Hall. Its history was as old as the town itself, whispered about in hushed tones and fearful glances. It was here, under the looming shadow of Blackwood Hall, that Julia and Michael decided to hold their wedding, a decision that would unearth long-buried secrets and awaken a dormant horror. Julia had always been fascinated by the old, the mystical, the stories that danced on the edge of reality. Blackwood Hall, with its Gothic spires and air of mystery, seemed the perfect backdrop for her dream wedding. Michael, ever the pragmatist, had his reservations, but the look in Julia's eyes, that sparkle of unbridled excitement, was enough to sweep away his doubts. The preparations were a whirlwind of activity, with the hall being adorned with flowers, lights, and laughter. But as the wedding day approached, strange occurrences began to unfold. The flowers wilted inexplicably, the lights flickered without cause, and the laughter. It seemed to echo a bit too long in the cold stone corridors. On the eve of the wedding, as the rehearsal dinner came to a close, an old crone from the village appeared at the hall's entrance. Her eyes, milky white and unseeing, bore into Julia's soul. "Beware the Veil of Blackwood Hall," she whispered, a chilling warning that sent shivers down Julia's spine. Before more could be asked, the crone vanished into the night, leaving behind a trail of unease. The wedding day dawned, gray and overcast, as if the heavens themselves were wary of what was to come. Julia, in her radiant white gown, brushed off the previous night's encounter as mere superstition. The ceremony was beautiful, the vows exchanged under the watchful gaze of the hall's ancient portraits. But as the reception began, the air grew heavy, suffused with a sense of impending doom. As night fell, the hall seemed to come alive. Whispers filled the air. Shadows danced in the corners of the rooms, and the temperature dropped inexplicably. Guests spoke of feeling watched, of seeing figures in the mirrors that were not their own. And then came the moment that would forever be etched in the annals of Blackwood's history. As Julia danced with Michael, her veil, a family heirloom passed down through generations, fluttered and twisted as if caught in a silent gale. Her eyes, once bright with joy, turned dark, her gaze distant and hollow. The music stopped abruptly as a bone-chilling scream erupted from Julia. The guests watched in horror as the veil seemed to consume her, wrapping around her body in a spectral embrace. Michael lunged forward, but it was as if the veil was a barrier, impenetrable and cold. The room plunged into darkness, and when the lights flickered back, Julia was gone. In her place, on the dance floor, lay only the veil, now black as the darkest night, pulsing with an eerie life of its own. The search for Julia lasted weeks, but no trace was ever found. Blackwood Hall was forevermore shunned, its gates locked, its secrets buried. Some say Julia's spirit wanders the halls, eternally searching for her lost love, her cries echoing in the night. And so, the story of the Veil of Blackwood Hall became yet another dark tale in the tapestry of Blackwood, a haunting reminder of the thin veil between love and obsession, reality and the supernatural, a tale whispered about in the flickering candlelight of fearful hearts. In a small, forgotten town, where traditions cling like ivy to every stone, I found myself entwined in a mystery that would haunt me for a lifetime. It began, innocently enough, with an arranged marriage to a woman named Izumi, a name that would soon echo in the corridors of my mind like a whispered secret. Izumi was an enigma from the start. She bypassed the formalities of our arranged marriage system, meeting me directly, a deviation that should have been my first clue that she was no ordinary woman. Our meeting was simple yet surreal. Sweet toast, coffee, and a connection that felt as ancient as time itself. Her quiet charisma was magnetic. Her gaze seemed to pierce through the veils of reality. We married swiftly, a traditional ceremony, but her side of the aisle remained hauntingly empty. She claimed to be an orphan, a detail my desperate family easily overlooked. I, however, was captivated by her mystery. Life with Izumi was a silent dance of days and nights. She was devout, almost religiously so, to every local custom and festival. Yet she never spoke of her past, her family, or her innermost thoughts. It was as if she existed within a bubble of serenity, untouched by the mundane concerns of the world. Our struggle to conceive was a shadow that grew over our marriage. Izumi, however, never faltered in her calm demeanor. She walked in the harvest festivals, made offerings, and smiled a smile that could calm storms. But with each pregnancy came loss, a pattern of despair that left me broken. Yet she remained unshaken. Then, in our 10th year of marriage, hope bloomed anew with her pregnancy. But as fate would have it, the climax of our story unfolded in the sterile white walls of a hospital room, a stark contrast to the colorful tapestry of our life. Her contractions were premature, her protest against the clinical environment unheeded. The birth was a tragedy, a stillborn child, a loss so profound it seemed to fracture the very fabric of our existence. But what happened next would shatter the remnants of the reality I thought I knew. Izumi's scream pierced the sterile air of the hospital, a sound so primal it seemed to come from another world. Her frenzy led us to the morgue, where, in the dim light, something unfathomable occurred. As she cradled our lifeless child, she transformed. Words from an unknown language spilled from her lips, her body contorting, shrinking into something other. Her hair, once long and flowing, seemed to shorten, taking on a reddish hue. Fur sprouted from her skin, her once delicate frame now feral and animalistic. In a final, heart-wrenching moment, she looked at me. Those intelligent eyes I had fallen in love with, unchanged in her new, inhuman form. With the infant's nape clenched in her jaws, she vanished into the night, leaving me in a chasm of shock and disbelief. The aftermath was a blur of accusations, disbelief, and a declaration of my insanity. Izumi was declared missing, presumed to have met a tragic end. But I knew the truth. A truth too fantastical for the world to accept. Now, I spend my days in the shadow of the local shrine, my eyes searching the wilderness for a glimpse of a fox with knowing eyes and her unusual cub. In my heart, I remain married to the enigma that is Izumi, a woman who was not just a part of my world, but a part of something much larger, much older, and infinitely more mysterious. And sometimes, in the quiet of twilight, I swear I see her. A fox with intelligent eyes, watching me from the edge of the forest, a silent guardian of a story too strange to be believed. The moment the doctor said, "It's a bit unusual," our lives spiraled into a never-ending nightmare. I always believed in the natural order of things, but what happened with my wife, Emily, defied all laws of nature. Emily's pregnancy was a miracle, shadowed by the curse of her family's medical history. We were prepared for challenges, but nothing could prepare us for this. She carried our child not for 9 months, but for 2 harrowing years. 2 years of a grotesquely distended belly, of haunting doctor visits where ultrasounds revealed only shadows, moving, swirling, as if alive. The situation was crushing us, emotionally, financially, spiritually. The relentless tide of medical bills, the whispered rumors, the lost friends. But worse was the thing inside her, growing, consuming, an enigma that medicine couldn't solve. I was losing her, bit by bit, to the monstrosity that our dream had become. Her eyes, once lively, now held a void, as if something was leeching her life from within. And amidst it all, the banshee wails of our unborn child, never seen, never felt, but always there. A specter in our lives. We were desperate. Desperation drove us to a clandestine clinic in Switzerland, our last hope. A maverick doctor, whispers of unorthodox methods, and a suitcase full of our remaining life savings. It was a shot in the dark, but darkness was all we had. The clinic was more of a bunker, cold and uninviting. Dr. Halden, with his cold eyes and clinical detachment, was our last hope. The procedure is experimental, he warned. Risky. But risk was a luxury when the alternative was a living hell. The operation room was like a scene from a horror movie, with tools that looked more like instruments of torture. Emily lay there, so frail, her belly a grotesque mockery of motherhood. The doctor's hands were steady, but there was a tremor in his voice when he said, "We don't know what we're dealing with here." The first incision was the hardest. I held her hand, trying to offer comfort. But what comfort could there be? The sound of her flesh tearing, the sight of blood. It was a gateway to an abyss. And then we saw it. Not a child, not a human, but a thing. A metallic, writhing mass fused to her spine, pulsing with a life of its own. It was as if we had harbored an alien being, a parasite masquerading as our child. Emily screamed, a sound that will haunt me to my grave. It was pain, yes, but also betrayal. Betrayal by her own body, by the child she had longed for. Dr. Halden was sweating now, his hands moving with a frantic urgency. "It's attached to her," he muttered. "I have to remove it, but it might take her with it." The room was spinning. Time was warping. I watched in horror as the doctor pulled at the metallic mass, its tendrils clinging to her insides like roots. And then, a sound, a metallic screech, a wail that wasn't human. The thing was alive, aware, and it didn't want to leave. In a final, desperate act, Dr. Halden managed to detach it, the sound of rending metal echoing through the room. Emily's body went limp, the life seeping out of her. The thing lay on the floor, a twisted sculpture of our nightmares. I wanted to destroy it, to end its abominable existence. But as I moved closer, it changed. It unfolded, reshaped, and there, in a pool of blood and metal, was a baby. Our baby. But she was wrong. Her eyes held galaxies of darkness. Her skin had a sheen that was not of this world. She was beautiful and terrifying, a creature born of both love and horror. We left the clinic with more questions than answers. Our daughter, if she could be called that, was a mystery, a conundrum wrapped in human flesh. She spoke in a voice too mature for her infantile form, words that seemed ancient, laden with wisdom and sorrow from another world. The days that followed were a blur. Emily, weak and pale, was a ghost of her former self, her eyes haunted by the ordeal. Our daughter, however, thrived in an unnerving way. She grew rapidly, her intelligence far surpassing that of a normal child. Nights were the worst. I'd hear her, talking in her crib, in a language I couldn't understand, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Sometimes I wondered if we had brought back a child at all, or something else, something ancient and unknowable. Our home became a place of silent terror. Emily and I drifted apart, each lost in our own nightmare. The bond that once held us together was strained, torn by the unspoken truth that lay in the crib, a truth that cooed and giggled, but with eyes that spoke of eons past. The community shunned us. Whispers of the cursed family and the demon child followed us. But what could we do? She was our daughter, a product of our love, yet a harbinger of a dark and incomprehensible legacy. As I write this, she's there, playing with her toys, her laughter a melody that's both sweet and chilling. I fear for what the future holds, for us, for her, for the world. I look into her eyes, those deep, abyssal pools, and I see something staring back, something old, something that knows far too much. We sought a child, a symbol of our love, but instead, we opened a door to the unknown. And now, we live with our choice, with our daughter, a child not just of this world, but of something far beyond, a constant reminder of the thin veil between the natural and the supernatural, the known and the unknown. In the end, Perhaps some miracles are better left unprayed for.